Why you need to own your own media strategy and not let any. Number 2 is inbound a bunch of bull. We're going to tackle that topic today. And number 3, professional development. You either adapt or you die. Plain and simple. Anyway, what's up, everybody? Dennis Schrotti, founder of DOYO Live, Digital Marketing Interactive Design Conference presented by iSynergy, and I am all jacked up today on some Mountain Dew. 1 week out from DOYO Live, Digital Marketing Conference, our 4th installation. Tickets are limited right now, event only. We're at less than 20 tickets. We'll see what happens with those, and then we may be able to release a few more. But what I want to jump into today, number 2, it's a Hip Hop Friday. That's how we do it around DOYO Live. Have you been watching the Hulu special with the Wu-Tang Clan? Amazing. I think it's revolutionary when it comes to A, storytelling, B, not just storytelling, but the way that the streaming environment is basically releasing that 1 week after the next, episodic, instead of letting you binge watch. I've been coming back every week, waiting for Wednesdays, just because of that show. I'm really digging that. And it helps me lead into my next topic today, why you need to tell your own story. Because if you watch the Wu-Tang Clan, the great American story, you see that they're them as a business, as people evolving in the music industry. They had tons of struggles along the way. They'd make something, they take 1 step forward, 2 steps back. That's a constant theme that if you are in business, and that's what we're going to jump into from a media perspective today. If you've not seen the article that recently came out by one of our new news organizations, so we've got a couple in the area. The fact of the matter is this, that it left some opportunities for some other news organizations. The Business Journal Daily has taken in the opportunity to tell stories about news in the area. The Tribune in Warren has now decided to cover more news in Mahoning County and doing a nice job with at least the user interface and the experience on the Vindy.com site. Recently happened here. One of the first stories that came out was basically, and this is obviously in my view, it looked like it's a clickbait article. And the article has to do around recent food inspections, and if you know anything about restaurant food inspection, that when that happens, that is obviously public record, and it makes its way into the media. The second portion of that is that I've seen some other small business friends of mine, Tim Petrie, and I don't feel bad about dropping his name because he is a DOYO Live sponsor, and he'll be at the conference next week from White Glove Payroll and HD Davis, had some very critical opinions of Mahoning Matters. And then Josh over at Stone Fruit Coffee, another guy we have a ton of respect for, have basically recorded a video giving his point of view on what he thought about that article. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because here's why. Obviously, as a news organization, news organizations have a responsibility to the rest of us to report on the news. And hopefully it's not sensationalized to the point where it's clickbait, because the more clicks, the more papers you sell, the more money that you make. Hopefully it's good, honest reporting. I think what a number of things that, and I don't mean to interpret for my friends, but this was one of the first articles that the Mahoning Matters new news organizations coming out with, and basically going after, reporting news on small business. And yes, they've got an obligation to have to do that. But in the same note, there are a lot of tremendous stories that are going on in the Mahoning Valley right now that they could have chosen to go the positive route and start there. Yes, we need news. We need watchdog organizations just as much as we need people like you and me to tell our story, or basically report on, which we do, when a restaurant isn't serving us correctly. Case in point, 200 computers to East High School, Blue Sky Therapy. They've been in business for over 30 years. Female owner, operator, CEO of the business. That's a great positive story. It's a great one that Mahoning Matters could have come out with. And heck, I'll be biased here for a second. I reached out to Mahoning Matters 3-4 months ago when I saw that they were coming to town to make inroads, to invite them, open my arms, my big DOYO Live arms, to Mahoning Matters, because they are launching around the same time right now as DOYO Live. Grassroots movement right here, locally owned and operated by me. Every ticket you buy goes to putting food on the table for a little guy like the guy that I got on my shirt and 3 other kids. That's right. Your ticket can feed an entire Schiraldi family for probably an entire month. That's a great story, right? We're in our 4th year. We've grown this from nothing to something. Over 800 people have attended. And by the way, if you're in the media, it is a great place to be. The reason is that you're going to have 300 business owners, marketing professionals in that 300 makeup, right? PR people that you want to build relationships with for future stories, for advertising purposes. So the point of the matter is this. It's not to bash, obviously, on Mahoney Matters and their decision to report on something that basically felt like a clickbait article in the first article when they could have took the positive spin. The real piece of advice here is this, the long-winded way of getting about it. A media company in your own business and tell your story first. DOYO Live has always taken the approach that we are going to tell our story and we are going to announce our announcements on our own platforms, on our blog, through this Facebook Live right here into our email list. That's what happens when you subscribe, where you're going to get VIP content and exclusive offers. And we're oftentimes, if we do have a big announcement on a speaker, a sponsor, a free event, that's going to our newsletter first. Then it's going to our blog. Then it's going to social media. And yes, do we like the fact that we get our story into traditional media? Absolutely. Not only for us, but the clients that we work with as well. There is a benefit to that. But the fact of the matter is this. Nobody could tell your own story better than you, except for maybe your customers can also help to really validate you. But on a consistent basis, you can't be in the news on a daily basis. It's just not going to happen, right? Whether it's a digital or a print platform. So therefore, you have to go out and you have to be willing to tell that story every day. Third point of view is this, is that when you do show up in some sort of traditional media and you're a part of the story, you're in the story, a lot of times you don't get to tell the why, or you don't get to give away value of the knowledge that you know about your specific industry. And that's really what you should be doing on your platforms, engaging, entertaining, educating, and doing a little promoting. So News Story is going to give you that opportunity to tell a little bit about your background, your story, but for the most part, it's going to give you the how, like how do I buy a ticket? Where do I buy a ticket? What's the time? What's the date? What's it about? But you really don't get to do that and interact on a consistent basis. And that's why I believe that you need to build your audience on your platform, whether that's on social media, which is not ownable, but social media, your website, your email list, and all those different avenues that give you a bunch of different touch points so that if the you know what does hit the fan, you've got a legion of fans that you've been telling your story to, and they know the real truth. So keep that in mind. We were lucky just yesterday. Youngstown royalty when it comes to media, Mr. Stan Boney, interviewed me on the steps of Stambaugh Auditorium. And that's a huge honor. Like, I have to tell you, just being a kid from Lowville, Ohio, and the fact of the matter is that I grew up watching Stan Boney do the weather, and he called me and then texted me, and then I'm standing next to Stan doing an interview. It was really a surreal moment for me. You know, we were talking about the marketing conference, but again, it was in that 1 minute soundbite lens. And Stan Boney's not going to come to my house and have a conversation with me every day about DOYO Live. But the one thing I can do is I can come to my own media platform. I could turn my phone on like I have right now, and I could start talking to you, and I could start engaging with you. And all of you have the ability to be able to do that. It just depends on whether or not you want to or you don't. So keep in mind, I do believe that news organizations have a responsibility to tell correct, accurate news that's not sensationalized, that's not clickbait. I really wish Mahoney Matters would have come out the gate swinging with some really great positive stories that are going on in this area right now. And then obviously they have to report the news. They have to report the news. But the moral of this whole rant and rave and story that I got for you is tell your own story. The web has democratized it to the point where we can all go out. We all have a point of view, for better, for worse. And own your brand and do what you do and take advantage of that. That leads me into my next conversation, which means this, is that when you are owning your own strategy and you are building that reputation, you are creating thought leadership and authority that people want to follow. That's also another way that has been spun into a conversation about inbound marketing. That's driven by a technology company called HubSpot. They coined the phrase about 12 years ago, putting out content on a consistent basis, building up the authority, and having people find you. That's right. Let's sit back for a second and let's listen to the phones ring magically. That uncomfortable silence is that nobody's calling my phone right now in the inbound marketing strategy, but we do know this. We do know that 95% of all business decisions start with online search. 75% of people in the local environment use a local search on their phone that says, I need pizza near me. I need this near me. And those have high conversion rates. Inbound says we don't want to be disruptive. Isn't that a beautiful world, right? So traditional disruptive marketing is the knock on the door, sweeper salesperson, which hasn't obviously existed for like 50 years, but is the telemarketer call, which you obviously probably get on a consistent basis, and everybody's completely annoyed by the spam risk of the phone ringing, and that's disruptive to you and to your day. TV commercials, those are disruptive. You're watching a TV show and now you're like, oh, there's a TV commercial. And then maybe you start laughing at one of them and you're a little bit entertained by that. But that's a disruptive traditional tactic. Mail that comes to your house, disruption. So the thought behind inbound is this really altruistic world or utopian society that we're going to put out this magical content. People are going to find us. Maybe they're going to fill out our form. They're going to think we're so amazing and awesome from reading and interacting and engaging with our content that they're either going to pick up the phone and say, boy, I read your blog article. You're amazing. Where do I send my checks? Or they're going to fill out a form online and they're going to say the same thing. The reality and the fact of the matter is this, is that inbound is a reality to an extent that you can produce content on a consistent basis and become the authority in that conversation, right? But it's very difficult to build that up to the point where you're getting so many inbound leads and so much inbound phone conversation that eventually you got to make some sort of big part of the inbound strategy is for me to trade online currency. Online currency is my content bringing you value. In return, you give me your email address. The people that are watching, you could hit the like, the love, the happy button, or the angry button. I don't really care. But even though now we've transitioned from inbound to permission-based marketing, and that's the spin, right? Well, we got permission to basically bludgeon your inbox with our emails. At that point, doesn't it become disruptive in outbound as a strategy? You can't convince me otherwise. The only true form of inbound marketing is when somebody performs some sort of search, finds you online, and picks up the phone or will email you. And that will happen, but it's very difficult to get that to happen at scale on a consistent basis to survive as a business owner. Eventually, as a business owner, or if you're somebody that's in sales, you're going to have to pick up the phone and make a phone call. That's considered outbound. That's considered interrupting somebody's day. I talk to a lot of my sales friends out there. They're making 100 calls a week talking to 3 people. I get it. People are not picking up the phone these days, and the reason why inbound is such an important part of your strategy. But eventually, you have to pick up the phone. You have to get on email. You have to send your messages, do your business development. You have to go to social media and like somebody's post. The minute that I take that action of liking your post, I've just interacted with you, but I've also disrupted your flow because you're like, oh, who liked my post? So this big mythology about, oh, inbound strategy, we don't like phones, we're adverse to sending emails is a bunch of bullcrap. If you've ever sat back and you filled out something from HubSpot, you will get phone calls, you will get emails, you will get served up pay-per-click advertising. That is disruptive. And it's not necessarily inbound. It switches over to permission-based marketing, retargeting, and all sorts of things to show up in your feed so you interact with that. My best advice is this, is that you combine an inbound strategy to get people engaged with your content, with you, with your brand, and you're not simply picking up the phone, dialing for dollars and cold calling. The better way to go about it is that if you have a marketing automation software, you can set it up so different pages on your website are tracked with those interactions of people that actually you have their email address for. So therefore, I have mine set up so anytime somebody visits our registration page for DOYO Live, I get a notification that says somebody just visited the registration page. At that point, I have an opportunity that I can call them or I can send a timely email because it's warm and it's top of mind. There's an inbound portion of that. I searched for something. I found something about a marketing conference that I might want to attend. And so therefore, it's a combination of both. But I'm here to tell you, if you sit back and you wait for that phone to ring, it ain't going to happen. So you're going to obviously have to figure out the warm strategy. The second thing that you can do, you don't need a sophisticated marketing automation software in order to be able to launch some sort of, campaign that's a combination of the both. So MailChimp, for instance, under 2,000 contacts is actually a free application that you can use, and you take your database. Obviously, it needs to be opt-in, and if it's not in that first email that goes out, they have to obviously accept the fact that you're going to send them some sort of educational and promotional information. But once you start doing that, you run an email campaign over a 6-week period. Send an email every 2 weeks. And then pay attention to your statistics and farm out the people that open and click through and interact with you. If the opens are a significant amount and it's too big of a list to work, then go to the click-through amount. But if you take that approach, that inbound, hey, I'm interacting with your brand, and then I'm going to send outbound messages, at least you're doing it to an engaged audience. I find nothing more challenging and difficult in business than just picking up the phone that somebody has no name recognition, brand, and just pick up the phone and that's a talent that is a very difficult one to master. It's actually angers some people that, you'd even take that approach. But I have to tell you, this whole content strategy that, you're not going to be disruptive. Well, if you're not willing to do that, you're not willing to stay in business. That's the bottom line. Which leads me to my next point. You either adapt or you die in business. That is right. You want to, I need to adapt to a tripod. I've gone through 2 of them. You either adapt or you die. And here's my point of the fact of the matter is this. Do you think Toys R Us saw themselves going out of business because they didn't adapt their e-commerce platform? Or how about the guy that bought 100 head of horses the day before, the first car rolled off the assembly line? That guy was like, holy crap, what did I just do? And how is this examples as well, big and small, that we don't need to rehash that story. But if you don't evolve your business model and adapt to the change, whether you like the changes or not, the market doesn't care. The market doesn't care if you like to use a fax machine or not. The market just said, look, there's no need for really utilizing a fax machine in this day and age unless you're still like an attorney or a doctor's office. So what I'm getting at is this, is the value behind professional development. If you believe in adapting to change and how rapidly things get moved along in this day and age, and always looking to grow as a professional, developing and investing in your professional development is key to your future. And that's obviously a very self-serving, biased thing to do, because I have a marketing conference next week that's going to be preaching on the modern day marketing and sales strategy. But the fact of the matter is this, you don't have to buy a ticket to the conference. You can subscribe to our email newsletter. You can come and watch this blog every week. I just got done giving away, I think, some really good advice when it comes to owning your media strategy and how to approach an inbound marketing sales strategy with your outbound. You get tons of free content from this platform. I highly recommend, though, that you get out there and you develop yourself professionally on a consistent basis, because if you don't, the world passes you by. And then the post goes up on social media. Oh, we just couldn't figure out how to make it. And there are a ton of resources that are out there for you today, no matter what industry that you're in. You can just go and type into Google right now, and it's going to spit out a bunch of answers for you about professional development. Everything from free to how much do you want to pay, and maybe that's $150 to come to DOYO Live next week. So I'm a big believer in professional development because of that, because it continually helps to evolve me. I went to a marketing conference 2 weeks ago in Cleveland, Ohio, because of the fact that there was one or two presenters that I really was interested in what the topic was, and it was important enough for me to drive an hour up and an hour back. The second part of that professional development comes within networking. If you're not networking, you are not working, plain and simple. And so therefore, it's always very important to get out there, to go have coffee with individuals, go give the talks, go listen to the talks, you belong to Rotary, a BNI group. We have a meetup group at Youngstown Marketing Company. You can join that. And we have all sorts of networking events. And yes, again, self-serving, DOYO Live, you have an opportunity. If you're doing business in the regional market and you're looking to connect with marketing, business, sales, design professionals, real estate agents, attorneys, chiropractors, like it is one big bowl of happy marketing, sales, and Youngstown soup, and an opportunity to trade business cards, shake hands, kiss baby, slap towels, and hopefully make a meaningful connection that can help you to advance your business. So that's it, everybody. It has been a really good week. We've had a ton of ticket sales. We've got less than 20 tickets left right now on the webpage. So get out there, support your local business. We need your support every day in this community, not just on Small Business Saturdays. I'm on a roll today. I've got to go out. I've got to go collect some swag for the swag bags. That's right. You get swag. You get a free lunch. You got free parking. There's a couple frees in there. And really would love to see you do you live next week. I hope that all of you have an amazing weekend. The fall here has been absolutely epic here. I hope I didn't just jinx us, but all of you enjoy your weekend. Keep your hustle, keep your grind, keep your faith. Support those Youngstown businesses, people. Love you. Cheers.